Hey everyone, welcome to the Recruitment Show. We are talking about all of the major topics that people are discussing right now. Everything recruiting, future of work, and everything in between. I've got guests from all over the world to come and share their perspective and their thoughts and feelings and all of that stuff on these key topics. It might not be politically correct. It might not be what you want to hear, but it's people's perspectives, and it's important to hear people's perspectives. I love storytelling, and I think one story can illuminate a million more and really increase our understanding of these topics. So sit back, whether you're watching live or after, grab a drink, take a seat, and enjoy. Hey everyone. Right, I'm going to get graded on if I can pronounce Virgile Raingeard's name correctly. How am I doing out of 10?
So you got your Raingeard, Lewis. No, it's Raingeard. Yeah, it's just the last bit. Yeah, there you go. 9.5. And of course, I'm French, so I can't give you a 10. Like, I feel like I have to be the arrogant snob one, being like, you can't ever reach 10.
I love that. My dad's first language is French. Embarrassingly, though, my French is less than a 9.5 out of 10. So you were very generous. Very generous. Thank you so much. Also, look, I mean, let me give you a little intro. I want to set some the context, and obviously we're going to talk about pay transparency. Let me get this on there, which is so topical right now, globally. You know, we do a lot in the US, and there's different rules and regulations and things like that. Obviously, we're both in Europe. I'm strictly speaking, I'm in London, so not really, but you know, so we'll kind of give some context and stuff, and no, it's going to be a brilliant conversation. And I know, just to kind of set the scene. So you're the CEO of Figures, which is a platform used by, I think, thousands of startups, mostly across Europe. And it's a real-time compensation benchmarking platform and aiming to bring more transparency and fairness to companies' pay policies. I love that. I hope I've done that justice.
Yeah, no, perfect. Well, I'd say we are a bit more than a compensation benchmarking platform now, because we're going to talk about that. We help companies manage their compensation, like their salary ranges, and sharing their salary ranges internally and externally, which is kind of aligned with the topic. So we are more than benchmarking, but apart from that, 100% correct.
Let's explore that a little bit more then, just to kind of, again, just proper scene. So what exactly is the platform doing? And then we can delve into pay and transparency and so forth.
Yes, for sure. So the first area of the platform is indeed compensation benchmarking. What we do is we aggregate data from 1,200 companies. We are plugged into their HR system, all secure, privacy compliant, GDPR compliant, and so on. And we pull in data that we aggregate, and then we give back an overview of the market, like how much is a data scientist earning in London, how much is a product marketing manager earning in Berlin, stuff like that. So we have this real time because we are plugged to our user HR system, and we pull in data every day, right? Compensation benchmarking, that's the first thing we do. Second thing we do is we help companies make sense of the data and manage the resulting data, and create their salary bands online instead of doing it in spreadsheets, share the salary ranges with their managers, employees, recruiters, and soon candidates, in a more efficient way than they're currently doing, because nearly everyone is doing it through spreadsheets. Like I did, because I'm a former HR, right? I have done 12 years in human resources. I created Figures to patch that problem and to give a better tooling and a better solution to manage compensation.
Yeah. I always find that the bands, it's difficult because there's an internal market almost, right, of what people are earning currently. And as we all know, it doesn't pay to stay at a company, right? You end up maybe getting little increases and things like that. It pays to move a lot, right? And so you always have this internal market where people are getting X, and then they're looking to hire, and also, so much of the time people are coming in over the bandings that these companies set, because the bandings are often set from their internal market. Now, if someone's already on that in another firm, you're going to have to go above. There's a big issue now, I think I'm seeing, where people are coming in above bandings. People have stayed a while. They feel they're underpaid, and there's just this whole messy. What are you seeing there? Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, for sure. So 2 things, right? The first thing you said is exactly right. Is on average, people get an increase that's twice larger by moving rather than staying. Like on average across the year, till true to today, if you want to get an increase, you get twice as large of an increase on average, changing job rather than staying in the company, which is a bit of a disaster, of course. And what's happening right now is that, especially with the past few years, like with the last 2 and 3 years, especially within the tech industry where things have been going crazy, where wages kept going up and up and up and up, of course you had to pay a premium to attract people, like you said, especially if you were a fast-growing company in which fulfilling your hiring plan was more important than getting people at the correct compensation, right? You're like, okay, I know I should get this person like 80K max, but if I don't get him, I'm screwed with my hiring plan. So I'll give him 90 just to close that person out, right? So this ongoing circle of like keep getting people higher and higher was fine when you had the budget to, at the same time, continually increase those bands. And now what happened? Economic downturn, people stop hiring, and now they don't have as much budget to start increasing their bands, increasing their employees, and they left with the legacy of the people they hired over the last 2 years, who are way overpaid compared to most of the people they have in-house. Massive issue at the moment, probably the number one issue for most companies we talk to.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're in the kind of startup space, right?
Yep.
So what's interesting is you're right. If you go back a few years where there was just a hiring, everyone was hiring, and most of the companies in the kind of your space, I guess, are VC backed, right? As in,
yep.
They've raised money, so they're not making any money. They're losing money every month. They're re-raising every 18 months or whatever it might be, and pretty much all that money goes to talent, to hiring, and it's all of it, right? And you just saw, I saw anyway, just these companies just focusing on just, let's give them 10K more, 20K more, whatever. And they focus so much on that, right? Versus actually, because if you speak with people, money is very rarely top of the list of things that they want or makes them, like some people will give up 10K to be more happy in a job. And so I think like, all the other things like culture, just being kind to people, like creating a really nice environment where people can learn, develop, do well, that kind of, almost sit by the wayside. And I think, people miss the trick there. If you're just focusing on just more money, you do run into problems. And there was a lot of, sorry, go on, you're going to say,
No, but I think you're exactly right. I think you create some kind of like fairness or salary debt. I like this term of like, when you keep hiring people at higher comp than you should, based on the internal market, as you meant earlier, you're creating something that's going to come and bite you in like a few months, a few years from now. Because people are talking, and because we're going to talk about it, pay transparency laws are going to expose companies' unfairness. They're going to expose their practices, their inequality to people, to candidates and employees. So it's going to be a massive issue. Companies that have done that for years are going to be the one that suffers the most in the next few months and years for sure.
Yeah, no, it's true. Now, if I just argue the other side a little bit. So, I mean, there's an argument obviously for let's get the best people in, and maybe that person costs me 30,000 more than someone else. I don't really care. I just want the best engineers to come and develop my products, right? I want to just poach them from my competitors, because you can have the best business plan, but if you don't have the good people,
Yeah, but that's fine as long as you pay the people that are within your company. If there's also the ones that are the top performers possible, right? There's the ones that are supposed to be high performing. If you pay them well as well, it's fine. It's basically what has been Netflix approach and well-documented compensation policy for years, right? Their policy was, we're going to pay top of the market. We're going to hire the best. We're going to pay them the best potential package they're going to get everywhere. But then once you're in, if you realize you're not part of the best, we're going to get you out. But we want the best. We're going to pay everyone the best. That's alignment between their cultural belief and their compensation practices. And that's fine. I agree with you. That's fine.
Yeah. But most people aren't like that, are they? I mean, I think a lot,
Exactly.
it's your point, right? I think there's a lot of opaqueness, if that's even a word, but, like just a lot of people are in a firm, and some people share the salary information, some people don't. You may have seen an advert, and that's when I think the problems start to come, when it's not transparent.
And it's going to be more
So
on
that's
that topic, right? That's a big thing. That's the undercurrent is, rather than just the amount, transparency and fairness are becoming more and more top of mind. And it's going to be more and more top of mind for employees and candidates alike. And it's not only going to be about what's the amount I'm getting. It's like, why am I getting this amount? What are others getting? Am I being paid fairly compared to other people? Can you share more information about that? That's what's to come, right?
So to just explore that a bit more. So you mentioned pay transparency rules that are coming. Yeah. Can you just share what are they? Is that across Europe, country specific? Like, just for those that don't know, can you give us a little overview?
Yeah, of course. So it's important to understand that why is there a pay transparency push? It's because like more and more research shows that the more transparency, the more information is out there for candidates to know what fair pay should be, the less unfairness and inequality there is, right? This is something we showed with our own database, right? We surveyed 800 companies. We asked them how transparent they were with pay, not at all, some information about their policy, transparent on their salary bands and salary ranges, or even fully transparent on individual salaries within the company, which is what we do at Figures, by the way. And what we saw, there's a huge correlation into the reduction of the gender pay gap with transparency. The more companies are transparent, the less inequality and the less gender pay gap there is within their company. And this is what is pushing lawmakers to progress on that front. And it started in the US. The big push was in the US last year, state of New York, state of California, late last year, pushed laws to say every job ad out there should contain a salary range, right? So that's the push. That's also being voted in more and more states in the US. So this is ongoing and something that's not going to stop. And now in Europe, the big move has been end of March. European Parliament voted a directive that's going to force every European Union member within the next 3 years to implement laws in that direction. Sharing salary ranges on job ad. Publicly sharing your gender pay gap on your website. Forbidden to ask to candidates what their current compensation is. Massive change for recruiting, right? And you know a lot about that. Forbidden for employees not to be able to talk salaries internally, because some people were putting in their contract, you're forbidden to share your salary with your peers. Gone. Yeah. So many changes are coming in the next 3 years.
Wow. It's crazy. I mean, so my experience, I mean, we have a US, we did a lot in the US, we have a US team and stuff. And so it's already there, right? Like you're absolutely, you were right. So we're not able to ask candidates what they're currently earning. And also companies aren't. So recruiters, HR professionals, hiring managers, whoever, not allowed to ask. And then you're right, those two states, New York, California, they have to publish pay ranges, otherwise they get quite big fines. I think it's actually fascinating, and I think there's arguments to both sides on how this works. I think what we've seen, interestingly, and there's other dynamics maybe at play, but the wage inflation has been crazy, crazy in the US. And I think what's interesting is that, I think it's wonderful. You're hiring for someone. Who cares what they're earning right now? They could be earning more, they could be earning less, whatever, right? Like I'm hiring for a CFO and I'm willing to pay whatever X and Y, whatever, right? And you can apply or not. It's fine, right? And I think that's a really good thing. And I think, there's a lot of people that get under market rate. If they've, you see a lot of immigrants often get unpaid, a little bit paid a bit less. They haven't got quite, market experience and all of these things. It could be gender, it could be whatever it is. It doesn't matter particularly, but you see a bit of unfairness. I think that's a good thing. I think it's caused some issues around, we were just talking about it, the internal market and the external market. I've spoken to a lot of folks, so they've people are coming in, internal team know exactly the range, and they're like, hold on a sec, I'm not even getting paid bottom of the range. What's going on? So it's holding people to account now, and some companies can afford, because you have had the salaries have gone up, and not every company can afford to pay the top rate. So the other thing, just on before I know talking a lot, but just before you answer this, I think the pay ranges are interesting because hands up who wants to get paid bottom of the pay range.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? Of course. of course, that's a true problem with like advertising the pay ranges, is that no one is going to come and is like, okay, pay range is like 60 to 80. Oh yeah, 60 is fine. I'm going to get 60. I'm fine with 60. Yeah, that's a big issue. And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as there's more and more job ads showing salary ranges and how candidates will get used to that and so on. But to your first point, I think it's a good thing, because the example of like, there's been multiple documented examples. There was a Twitter thread that blew up with like an employee being like, okay, I've seen a job ad for a role similar to mine being posted and the salary range is like 20K, starts at 20K above what I'm making, right? And completely blew up. The company pulled out of their job ads and so on. That's going to come. But that's going to force companies to be, before they start publishing salary ranges externally, what they have to do is like, take a good look internally and being like, okay, where's the unfairness in my company? When I start to publicize and to advertise some of my salary ranges, who's going to be pissed off? What can I do proactively to tackle those issues? So it's going to be a journey before we get to actually share salary ranges, like fixing internal unfairness first. That's going to be the first topic, right? It's not about communicating salary ranges to start with. It's about looking internally and fixing unfairness before taking care of the external communication.
But I think fairness is interesting. I want to just explore that, because a lot of people think fairness is being paid the same. And I don't think that's fair, right? That's not fairness. Because, like, you know, who doesn't, right? I wanted to be a professional footballer when I was growing up, right? Now, you know, as much as I wanted to be, I'm not as good as Mbappe, right? Mbappe's getting paid what, like 200 million, 250 million plus. Right now, I'm not going to get paid that to play football. So, like, relating it to work, you know, I think, you know, there's levels to the game, right? Like, people are better than other people and stuff. And I think for me, fairness is being paid for your skills, your talent, for, you know, how good you are at certain things. And I think maybe companies need to get better at actually almost like, you know, what do I need to do to get this kind of salary? Or why is that person earning more than me? Is it because they've been in the game longer and they've been through downturns and they know how to, you know, to deal with difficult situations? And so I think it's for me, that's fairness. And I think sometimes, you know, it can be just mistaken for, well, we've got the same job title. Should we get paid the same? What do you think?
So the first thing I think is that there's no absolute truth when it's what's fair or what's not when it comes to compensation, right? And there's multiple areas in which it's true. Like, one glaring example is, if you pay foreign employees or people working abroad the same way that, let's say you're a UK-based company, you have offices, a branch in Greece, is it fair to pay your Greek employee like 40 to 60% below UK rates? Is it fair if they're doing the same job? Maybe. Because you're like, your compensation should be tied to your cost of living and your expenses, and they have less expenses than UK-based employees, therefore it's fair. Yeah, but other people could be like, no, but if they're doing the same job, they should be paid the same thing. Here's the thing. Fairness is not absolute, and I think you have to take a stance as a company to say, this is what's fair for me. You said that to you being like fairness is not paying everyone the same. Some companies are like, you know what? Everyone on the same role at the same level would be paid the same thing, regardless of performance and skills. And they think it's fair, and some candidates will apply to this company because they think it's a fair way to pay. I disagree with it. You disagree with it, but their vision of fairness. Let me give you another example. One of our client company, Shine, a bank, I think there are 600, 700 employees. They incorporate in the salary a part on the number of dependents you have. So if you have, like, I think it's around 2 to 3K a year, if you have 3 kids that you take care of, you're going to get 6K more on your salary every year. Is that fair? That's their vision of fairness. That's their culture and belief around compensation. And you know, some people think like, it's not fair at all. Do you think that's fair? That like the same person doing the same job, the same level of performance, one that's 3 kids is being paid more than the one that chose not to have kids? That's their version of fairness. And you know what? I applaud that, because they take a cultural stance of saying, we think that's fair. And if you don't think it's fair, don't come work for us, right? Say, wait, discuss with it. And I'm fine.
No, do what I love it. I love that. Because I think you got to be true to yourself, right? Like you've got to be authentic and stuff. And then if you believe, you know, there's many people who believe different things, right? And I think as long as you stand by what you believe and you communicate it like that, then I think that's wonderful, because, you know, there's a place for everyone in this world. And I think the trick with recruiting, with work, whatever, is finding the right place for you, you know? And
Exactly.
I think on pay, on fairness and stuff, if you're completely transparent with that, you know, either it's we'll get paid the same for the same job, or we're going to grade you and the high performers are going to get paid more, and that's why, or you get paid because you got more kids, or, you know, you don't want kids, but we'll give you puppy maternity leave so you can spend time with your new puppy because you're not going to get maternity leave. Great. I think so. I'm all in on that. I'm all in.
Exactly. So I think it's like, what is fairness to you? And I don't think there's any general truth. Same thing with like the way you pay remote people. Stay true to that and communicate that so that you actually hire and retain people that are aligned with that, right? And your reason of fairness could be, once again, I will only increase 10% of my population every year. I want to reward only the 10% of my population with high increases. Everyone else going to get zero. Maybe, right? If you're clear with that, if you're aligned with that, and if people that join you are aligned with those core principles, why not? That could be fair to you. That could be fair to them, and could be completely unfair to someone else and another organization. It's fine as long as you're aligned with, true to yourself, aligned with what you believe, and that you're clear about it, I think, with people you're going to hire.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that, you know, because I think, you know, you're talking about business, work, you know, I mean, you know, all of these countries in Europe are capitalist, right? Let's be frank. And so, and you know, like, you get rewarded for doing well, I think, in life. You know, if you're better than someone in something. Sport's always such a great example because it's such a stark example. It's like, you know, you want to be, for me, it's like you want to have a quality of opportunity, right? You want to have the opportunity to be in the game, to start the start line, to whatever, right? You don't want to be, you know, and I think that's a great thing to aim for. And I think it's also really good. Like, you want to be able to improve your situation. You know, you want to know that you've got the opportunity to earn money and do well and learn and all of those things. And I think as a company communicating these things, it gives you a great chance at attracting people, because forget the pay, just the fact that you're, you know, communicating in that way shows a lot about your culture and your values and things, which it's a good way to do it.
Right. And you know that actually, like, studies prove that on average, if you're being transparent, and we partnered with like OTA on this as well, and they show that at equal like compensation and offer, if the job ads that are fully transparent by the companies that are fully transparent on like the salary range, who they are, the company get twice more application. And that's true to us, right? We are paying median of the market. You go on our website, we're transparent about our compensation policies, not to pay above the median of the market. We are strictly middle of the pack, but we are super transparent on what we pay for each role, each location. And we are very transparent with that. And we actually get a lot of application of people that could be like, you know what? Originally pay is below what I was expecting, but it feels so good to join a company who seems to share my culture, my values, and so on, that I'll accept this package because it feels like, once again, it's a place aligned culturally with my deep belief.
Yeah, no, I like that. So someone's hiring right now, well, in the next 3 years, because if it gets implemented in the next 3 years. So you've got pay ranges. Now, as I kind of alluded to a little bit if I look at the experience in the US, pay ranges is a weird thing to publish because no one wants to get paid bottom of the range. And so it feels like with pay ranges, if you publish it, you have to be, I think, quite specific on, so why have you offered me this amount when I know it goes up to this amount? I think you have to be quite clear. Or maybe, are you able to publish a number?
You're able to. You need to have, and you know, in fact, what's interesting in terms of law, you know what, if you go on Netflix career page right now, I didn't go in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but last time I checked, like 3 weeks ago, they still do this, right? And they've been doing this for months. You go for the ad, take any ad. That's what I checked, was like product manager in California, I think Los Angeles. The advertised salary range was like between 60 and 800K a year. They are advertising salary ranges, right? They are not just really playing by the rule. And right now, the law hasn't adapted. You know, it's always a cat and mouse game. Like the lawmakers, companies find a way, and so on. I think companies that are doing that and that don't have Netflix employer brand might get punished by candidates. Could be like, okay, they're just making a fool out of the whole thing. I'm not like gonna apply to it, right? So I think the way to go is to show a range or a number if you're that type of company, and be super specific on this is how we get to this number. This is how we're going to be sure you're dealt with fairly when it comes to compensation. And I think people buzz into that. People buzz into getting more transparency, and more companies will do it, in fact. And the companies that don't will suffer in terms of employer branding.
I think so. I'm gonna, let me see if this works. I've got the page up actually. So just to here you go, let me see.
You want to have a look at like career page of Netflix, then you?
Yeah. I've just, here you go. Let's just show people just in case I haven't seen. Here we go. So this is just a random job, and you can see, yeah, you're right. Here we go. So you can see there, 80 to 350. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, so using this as an example, what's the point? I mean, are they kind of like just, I mean.
So I'll tell you what Netflix would say if you ask them, and then I'll tell you my true belief, right? What they will say is like, you know what? We have a generic job posting for machine learning engineer or product manager. And we don't know before starting to talk to the candidate and to assess the candidate, whether the person is going to be junior deserving of 80K or a senior principal machine learning engineer deserving 150. So we advertise both roles. My belief is that's not true. It's just they want to keep options open, because if you want to, then just display, if you end up being evaluated as a junior machine learning engineer, you're going to be paid between 80 and 120, intermediate between 110, 170. Display those ranges, right? They have 130. They're just being bold because it's easier for them to manage. They don't have to deal with it. They don't want to take the risk of entering those negotiations, and they can because they have a great employer. And I don't think most companies out there can afford to play that game because they don't have a Netflix reputation.
Maybe, yeah. But that is also like almost the opposite. It comes across to me as like, actually, we don't want to be transparent. We want to be opaque. We don't want to tell you how much we're paying these folks. We don't want to share that information with the competition. And we're just going to, just publish whatever we want and apply for the job. And we'll see what we can negotiate.
It's just trying to be compliant with the law without playing by the spirit of the law, right? Which is to be transparent on pay, which is to tell candidates information about what they can expect. They're not doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. So in Europe now, so we have 3 years. And so when do companies have to start thinking about this?
So that's first of all,
too early.
No, it's not too early at all. And I'm going to tell you more about that. It's like the 3 years for each country to turn it into a local law with their local specificities and so on. For example, on the gender pay gap, maybe France is going to be like, we want the requirement on gender pay gap measuring and reporting to be on social category. Maybe another country will be, we want the reporting to be done by years of experience. They need to adapt the directive into local law that makes sense to local specificities. To your point, the big issue, once again, is for the larger companies. The smaller companies have a bit of time to get there. They might as well get started, but they have time to get there. The big issue is with the large companies. So we have a few clients now and prospects. They, trust me, they're very, very well aware of the directive, and they just scared because they're like, okay, within 3 years, I have to start sharing my salary ranges on job ads. Right now, and we have one client that's 100,000 employees, because we started as mostly startup. We have more and more traditional and large companies right now, 100,000 employees. And they're like, okay, my salary ranges at the moment, outside of HR, there's only like 50% that knows about those salary ranges. And as you said earlier on, before I start sharing those externally, I don't want to start sharing those externally before my employees get to know those ranges, because it's going to be a huge mess. So I know that I have 3 years to start communicating those salary ranges to every employee. And before doing that, I have to start communicating those to every manager, train them on those salary ranges, then start sharing those to employees, and then start sharing those to candidates. In a company of 100,000 employees, you don't do that in 2 months. They're scared of they know they're going to need 2 to 3 years to get there, for sure.
Interesting. Wow. No, it's going to be big. It's going to be crazy. We've seen, because obviously the other thing is only if you advertise jobs, right?
Yeah.
Is there any creepy advertised jobs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's going to be the gender pay gap reporting, so you still have to advertise your gender pay gap, and if it's above 5%, you have to take actions and negotiate with like employer representative and action plans. But on the pure publishing the salary ranges, only on job ads, they said.
On job ads, okay, and then job descriptions.
It doesn't seem like it's
TBC.
going to be mandatory. We'll see how it we'll see how it turns out. And we'll see how it turns out in the UK, right? UK not being part of the EU is going to be interesting because they've been quite progressive and historically more progressive than the rest of Europe in that area. So I'm wondering what's cooking for the UK and what might come even sooner than in the next few years.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about the UK? I mean, are we gonna? No, yeah, I haven't heard much.
Nothing in terms of law, but I was in contact last year, which was interesting, as a member of the cabinet that was on the task force for gender equality, part of the task force that pushed for the publishing of the gender equality scores and stuff like that in the UK, which has been for organization, I think, above 250 employees. And at the time, they said they were looking for any avenue to improve transparency. So I'm sure they're preparing something in that area. Sure, they're still doing this. And everyone's doing it. US doing it, Europe's doing it. It's not, the machine won't be stopped and we won't get back to the old way.
No, for sure. And also, look, let's be honest as well. We have, for publicly listed companies, you already know what the board members are earning, right? I mean, that's publicly available information anyway, right? Salary, bonus, shares. I mean, that's been published for, a long time. So that's interesting. I think, I think the UK won't be too far away. I mean, we're never too far away from the US. We're quite, our employment laws are pretty, well, we're actually a bit better here. So, in terms of like for employees, I mean, I know France is super strong on it, America's a little bit more lax, but I think it should come in here. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it lands. I think there's a lot of like, certainly on pay. I mean, a lot of companies are gonna struggle with it. There's just going to be so much dialogue internally, a lot of disgruntled employees, and I think it's going to just very interesting to navigate through.
It's going to be big, and we keep talking about the laws, upcoming laws, but one thing like Airbnb, for example, they said, okay, so as soon as some of the laws were being passed in the state of California and New York, says, okay, if I have to be transparent for my job in New York and California, I might as well do it for the entire US, right? So they started publishing the job, the salary ranges on everyone in the US. And then what did they say? If I'm doing it in the US, I might as well do it worldwide. So they're in the process of doing it worldwide. So my take is most of the innovative company and the forward-thinking company will start doing it before it's a equal requirements, and this will transform the market, especially in areas such as tech where there's huge tension. If you see some of the top 5, 10, 15 employers being super proactive and start doing it, you don't want to be the one. You don't want to be a laggard, right? You don't want to be late to the party. You're going to start doing it before it's even a law. So my take, and I'm fairly confident on this, forward-thinking companies will start doing it soon. Others will adapt before it's a legal requirement. So in areas in which there's tension, like tech, it's going to be a normal standard market practice before it's even a law.
Interesting. What about people just on the other side of the coin? They don't really like other people knowing what they earn. Like it's never been a thing. It's always like, you go to a dinner party and you don't, it's not cool to tell your mates what you're earning, and you'll be uncomfortable. And
so 2 things about that, right? I mentioned the survey we did on Pay Transparency, I think it was a few months ago. It's a super cultural thing, right? What is the number 1 country in Europe in which there's the least pay transparency because culturally people just don't talk salaries? Can you guess?
Germany, France.
Germany, good guess. Germany. And France is second, right? German people don't like talking about salary. And in fact, in the UK, on average, they are more comfortable talking about salary than they are in like France and Germany and Latin countries overall. So that's the first thing is, it depends, it varies from culture to culture. The second thing is, it's pretty interesting. So as I mentioned, we have a few client companies like ourselves who are fully transparent on salaries internally. Like everyone knows what everyone earns, including myself within my company. And I know a few companies that wanted to do that, like after they were, not from the beginning of their company, but after they were like 50, 100, 150 employees. So they called their employees, says, would you be okay if you moved toward that? And I personally know of 2 companies that didn't do it. And what they said was pretty interesting. They said, the returns I get is number 1, I don't want to know what I don't want other people to know what I'm making. Like there was too many employees within their companies that were not comfortable with the ideas of others knowing their salaries. Right. But also what I didn't expect, there was in each case a significant number of employees that said, I'd rather not know what others are making, because you know what? I think it drives me crazy to know what some of my peers and people are doing.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
It's not, it's a very emotional, it's a very emotional subject. And it's why, the name Figures I gave to the company was for the ambiguity between it being numbers and also, figures being a person like, of course, a figure and so on. And in French, figures means visage, like the face.
Yeah.
And so to show that it's just numbers, right? There's people behind with their own ambition, friction, desire, and so on. So salary is a complex matter. It's a very emotional topic.
No, it's very, and it's not, universal, because sometimes with these laws and stuff, people just get washed away. You just kind of get carried into it, right? And to your earlier point about, certain environments are suited to certain people, right? And you market your view of fairness or view of transparency and stuff. And I think maybe in the end, that people that really buy into this will be attracted to certain companies, and others, they're a little bit more, modest, for want of a better word, just with how much they earn. And you're right, I don't really care what you earn. I just want to do my work and I'm happy with it. And if you're better than me, great, you earn more, or maybe even negotiated a few extra thousands, good for you.
Yep. But I think it's going to force companies to be more transparent about their belief around that, and therefore they'll attract candidates that match their belief.
Yeah. And I think it's a good thing to encourage whatever companies to be a lot more fair and transparent and certainly thoughtful with why they offer people what they offer them. Because I think ultimately you'll find that given it's a range, right, you won't always be earning the same as someone else doing your job, right? And I think, for me, and I know there's different views on this, but for me, fairness is I understand why you earn more than me, or they understand why you're earning more, and in certain roles it's easy, like a sales role, maybe your compensation is linked to performance, is really easy to understand. But I don't know, like an HR role, something like that, non-revenue generating, sometimes it's a little bit harder to understand, and I think it needs to be communicated well,
And I 100% agree with your definition, by the way, and I think it can vary from company to company, but I think what shouldn't vary and should be true in every company is being explicit about what drives compensation and what drives your starting compensation package when you join, and what drives your potential increases. Do you take into consideration, like, for example, the diploma when hiring? Do you make differences based on the person diploma or school or whatever? A lot of companies believe so. I don't believe so. Is there one fair thing more than another? I don't know. But being explicit about what are the criteria used to drive compensation at your company should be done everywhere, in every case.
I love that. There's also, actually, if you think about the employee for a second as well, I think you as an employee also need to appreciate that a company hopefully will do what they can. You can't always get more money, right? Like they're running a business and things like that. And, so I think be fair also with, like, kind of be commercial about it, because, when the going gets tough, and we've seen redundancies this past year, like people get cut if they need to make cuts and stuff. And I think be commercial, be fair, be understanding as well. And I think that will help to build a good relationship with your manager, boss, whatever it might be. Don't go, it's quite easy to get caught up in the, I want more. And suddenly you find actually, there is no more. And, you may be the next one out the door. Because I think there's a lot of value in building good relationships, and behaving in the right way and things like that. So,
for sure. Like, it's something and because I have a background as an ex-HR, I really value the people that are just doing their best, committed, and not necessarily coming to us for an increase every few months. And in fact, I have a personal goal not to reward those that constantly ask for a bigger increase all the time, and trying to focus more on the ones that are not asking, just doing their best job possible. So it's not necessarily a career advice to people, because if you tell that to people, maybe they won't negotiate, and they may be exploited by companies who use that against them. But I'll say this, I'm doing my best at my company to value those that are not out there all the time complaining, asking for an increase and so on. Like, I don't want to reward negotiation tactics too much. I want to reward just performance and people who are just committed to doing their best.
Love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I need to get you back. I want to get you back in like regularly as these laws, develop and stuff. It's such a great topic and not talked about enough, but it's going to be talked about a lot going forward. So
for sure. It'd be super interesting to see how the market changes in the next few months and years around that. It's going to change the world of hiring. I think is going to be the biggest one, but it's going to change a lot of stuff.
Huge. I mean, we're already experiencing it in our US business, and then Europe is going to be, I mean, it's a big change. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to be getting you back in soon to keep talking about it. So thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do not forget to subscribe in all the usual places: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you like to watch or listen to a podcast. Any comments or feedback, please drop us a DM. If you've got anything that you want us to discuss, again, feel free to get in touch. Have a wonderful